In our class in private equity, we've discussed the textbook private equity, the theoretical cases. Today, we're going to hear private equity where the rubber meets the road. Would you please give a warm welcome for Mr. William Schrader.
Thank you, Ludwig, and hello, everybody. First of all, I have a very informal style, so in case you can't tell, this is my presentation. Feel free to interrupt anytime you wish. And the cards are numbered, so I won't get it out of order. The credit card story is legit. Most people ask me, was it real? Don't try this at home, especially now. But back then it was 16% interest, and we actually paid off all the credit cards, and it was the only money we could get. So in the process of giving this lecture, I want to give you a little bit of history on PSINet. But first I want to start with, the course is hedge funds and private equity. So I thought I'd spend the first hour and a half on hedge funds to tell you all about hedge funds. All right, I'm kidding because I haven't the faintest clue what a hedge fund is. But when I'm done with my things that I want to say, the 3 sheets, I'm going to ask you all what a hedge fund is, because I only met one of these characters at one roadshow. We raised a lot of private money, and we raised it from institutions and private individuals, but only one hedge fund. And the guy never even looked at us. He was just looking at a screen all day long. And you have no clue what these guys do. So you'll have to tell me what they do. When Ludwig sent me an email, he asked me if I would be interested in doing this. And I said, sure, what is it? You know, is it in engineering school? Because I met him at a company called Folio FN, and I understand from reading his lecture notes from last week that he mentioned Folio in his presentation. Folio is well, you know what it is, right? It's a financial services, automated financial services firm that he was there from the get-go. I thought he was a techie. So to find out that he wasn't a techie kind of was misleading. And then he tells me he's an economist. And normally economists are pretty easy to spot. No offense if you're an economist, but they're pretty easy to spot because, well, they are. Anybody an economist? All right, okay. They're easy to spot. Except you snuck in because you're a finance guy.
Financial economist.
All right, that's different. Straight PhD economists are very strange people.
What's so strange about it?
What's strange about economists? Normally they have no understanding of the real world. So everything is reduced to a model. So, you know, this is the way you raise a child. You start out small, and then you got big, and in between is the model. And I'll get back to you because it's on my PowerPoint. Okay, that's how you raise a child. That's what an economist does. So everything is to a model. And so we'll get. I can pick on economists all I want. You know, raising venture capital money is a street fight. So those of you who understand what it means to wear boots and you know what you're supposed to kick with them, which is ass. These are ass kicking boots. That's what entrepreneurs do, and it's also what the VC does. So as a little bit of background, which Ludwig courteously didn't tell you, is that I've got about 12 years experience at PSINet, 5 years being an entrepreneur before that, 3 or 4 years since then, and also concurrently with that time, about 15 years of actually being a venture capitalist. So I personally run my own fund. I'm an advisor, a formal advisor to 4 different funds, ranging in size from $1 billion down to 150 million. Oh, there's another thing I saw in your presentation where a lot of times entrepreneurs are expecting help from the venture capital fund. Very seldom does an entrepreneur ever get any help from a venture capital fund. The VCs always say they want to help. But if you say to the VC, that you really need their help, and you mean it, they're not going to invest. Because, my God, if they knew how to do what you're supposed to know how to do, they'd do it. They have no clue. All they're doing is analyzing the business plan and financial stuff that you sent them. And half of that you made up. Well, sorry, 85% of it you made up. The rest your wife made up. So they have no clue. They sure don't want to take over. There are some simple techniques that I've learned. I'm afraid to share them because it may show a little bias on my part, but I don't mind if you don't mind. What you're looking for is somebody who respects others. Because if they respect somebody else, no matter what level they're at in society, then chances are their employees will like them. So if you're a VC, I'm a VC, and I take a prospective investee out to dinner, and I'm going to buy, that's the way it is. You know, the guy with the money buys. It's always the way it is. And if you're selling the company or you're selling a product, the seller always buys. The one who's doing the selling always buys. Remember this for the future. If you're talking to a candidate, you want to see how they treat the wait staff. Especially the people who clear the tables. The lowest level wait staff who comes near. If they show any sign of disdain, if, for example, they come over with a menu and they have to stand there while the guy's talking because he's busy talking. Now, if he is so intense, you have to read this in his eyes. He's so intense, he can't see the other person. He's just so interested about his subject. Like, oh my God, this thing is so great, I can't stand it. Okay, that's one thing. But if it's, well, there are a lot of ways to analyze this, and I'd like to start with these three. And, well, the waitress is standing right here, and they go on to the third one. You don't want to invest in that guy because there's nobody in his company who's going to work for him. The real cause of PSINet's failure was my failing to notice middle management that I brought in from telephone companies who were experienced, professional, high-level managers that got paid a lot of money and knew their stuff. They wrote in PowerPoint constantly. I call them officers of the deck. Couldn't manage their ass from an elbow, and I should have fired them all. Should have never hired them. So I should have fired them sooner. They do not know how to operate in an entrepreneurial environment, especially when things get tough. Things were getting tough, and they couldn't respond. Yes?
Can you kind of share your story, like bankruptcy, and at what point you realized the game was over?
November 2nd, 2000, the game was over. And that's when I told the board that we should fire the CFO, fire the president, and if they didn't agree with me, I was going to fire all of them. And we were going against the creditors committee, the informal creditors committee that had formed. And they said, no, we can't do that. They listened to lawyers instead. When the CEO loses control, it's the end. Personal cost of being a VC is trivial. It is only money. So right now, at this point in my life, I'm 52, I'm only a VC. No more entrepreneurship. Too painful. Lose too many friends, ain't worth it. Don't want to talk you out of it, because everybody that I know tells me it was the best experience of their lives. They lived through Camelot, you know, working with me and all that crap. If, you know, people ask me, what would you do differently if you could? And the answer is always the same, not start. Because the end is given. The end result would have been the same. We were capital intensive. I didn't know it at the get-go. That was a mistake that the VCs made as well as I did, because We didn't know we were going to get locked out of bandwidth. I knew it was a possible risk, but I didn't know it cost $1.5 billion to buy the fiber, $1 billion to buy the fiber, and $500 million to light it. That $1.5 billion destroyed our economic model. And we could never fill it in order to get the... Anyway, there's economies of scale. You know economies of scale? If you don't, learn it somewhere else. But there's economies of scale in big projects. You're making golf balls and you're doing them one at a time, one a week. Stop. Okay? Because the other guys can do it one every 2 seconds. When your stock goes up, they are brilliant. They'll thank you for raising the stock price, but they were the brilliant ones. When the stock was down, when they bought at 60 and it's trading at 50, I fucked up. And they'll tell me that. And I'll say, then sell your fucking stock. And I've told people that. Literally. Sell your fucking... We own 10% of your company. We could bury your firm. We could take your stock price to 2 cents. And I said, do it. We're not raising capital now. Do it. Okay? I don't have the choice. I can't sell my stock. You do. You can. You sell it. You think we are not on the right track. You think the stock went down because there are day traders in it. And you think we did something wrong? And you are stupid. And I don't want you owning our stock. This meeting's over. And I walked out of Fidelity. The investment bankers who saw me outside said, whoa, we heard that out here. You can't do this. Fidelity came back out and said, we were wrong. We're just seeing how tough you are. We're going to buy more stock. Come on back in, please. Since you've already been introduced to Folio FN, I'm no longer on your board, but I am an investor, a heavy investor personally, and or rather my fund is, and I have access to confidential information, so I can't share with you as much stuff as I did with Akamai, but started out small, got big, fast, any metric you want to use except for revenue. Okay? So number of employees, amount of money in the company, amount of square feet in use, amount of code written, every metric you can imagine. Salaries for the 20 lawyers Steve hired. Number of shares outstanding because he brought in number of board members. My God, it went from Steve, his wife, and me to I think 12 people on the board. What an annoyance. So every metric except revenue. Oh, customer count didn't go up either. Well, a little, okay? But it was noticeable. I mean, you notice that everything's going up except the two things that matter. I had a couple of opportunities, some really funny names. One was called Yard Sale, another one was called Yahoo, another one was called Google. Oh, another one was called CNET. I chose Yard Sales. I don't know why you're laughing. I don't think that's funny. I could have chose the other three, but I didn't because, I don't know, the Google guy, he had no experience. And it was such a dumb idea anyway. Who would ever pay to advertise on a search engine?